Hello and welcome to Credit Versio's Q&A live Wednesday for January 12th. I'm your host, David Michalek. Happy that you're here. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to give you a walkthrough of the Credit Versio platform. It's a question I've been getting a little bit lately, and I'm going to address as many questions as I possibly can on this live. We get a lot of questions during the week on Facebook and YouTube, and I'm really happy to go over this with you today. So feel free to introduce yourself, let me know where you're from, and a little bit about me. If you haven't been on the live broadcast before, I've been in the credit repair business for about 10 years, and about 7.5 of those years I spent working for one of the largest credit repair companies in the country. And I trained an entire team of salespeople, customer service, and in that time I've helped probably at least 10 to 12,000 people as far as one-on-one credit consultations, helping them understand credit, how to repair their credit, answering their questions, and I've probably done at least 20,000 customer service calls. So this is a subject matter I'm very familiar with. I moved on to Credit Versio about 2.5 years ago, about 6 months before the official launch, which was in March of 2020. And I'm here because I think a lot of people in this credit repair space clearly understood that there would come a time when most of this could be done using software. Now, granted, credit repair is something that you can do on your own. I mean, that's the way it was supposed to be done. That's the way it was designed. The Fair Credit Reporting Act of 1970 is what gives everybody the right to challenge accounts on your credit report. And the burden of proof, the burden of performance is on the credit bureaus and on your creditors. So the confusing part is, well, what do I say? How do I find these mistakes? And the difficult part is not so much really taking advantage of the laws, but the difficult part can be finding violations and errors, unfair data that's on a credit report and disputing it in a way that is effective. And this should be done by the individual. So what we spent years building at Credit Versio is the software that can do something that no other software can do, not to date anyway, and that is to import your credit report from all three bureaus, compare them to each other, dissect them, read all of the data that's on the credit report, including some of the data that you and I don't get to see. Credit Versio imports a digital file, which contains a little bit more information just because it's a digital file than what you and I see, which is a PDF that comes from an HTML document. Okay, I don't want to get too technical, but that's just the short version. And what Credit Versio is doing in that process is it's scanning, it's looking for mistakes, it's looking for errors, it's looking for things that are known to be not right on a credit report, things that can be lowering your credit score, things that could be causing damage. And because it understands clearly what these accounts are, it can tell the difference between a collection and a charge-off and a repossession, late payments. It knows the difference between a credit card, between credit card debt and say an installment loan or a bankruptcy. So it can tell the difference between all of these things, look for errors on each one, and then build a dispute reason for you. So I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of how the Credit Versio platform works. I imagine a handful of people that are here are already using it, and if that's the case, then feel free to ask questions as I'm going through this process. So this is all for you. If you have a question that is on a different subject, if you got a question about your dispute process or questions about how to raise your credit score, whatever it is, put it in the comment section. It's going to pop up immediately. I'll put it on the screen and we'll tackle it together. So the first thing I'm going to do is share the screen with you. And let's get started. I've got Credit Versio open. So I'm going to pop it open here. And we are in the on the dashboard, the home page, and I'm going to walk you through this. And a couple of things I want to point out real quick. I'm going to give you some great tips to start, and these tips come from the calls and the emails that we get in customer support almost every single day, whether it's emailed in or it's a phone call. And that is that sometimes people get into Credit Versio, and frankly, they're just like, okay, now what do I do? And what happens is they skip that initial skeleton page that lets them know, hey, your credit report is being processed. And there's a little video there done by yours truly. And it says one of the first things that you want to do is go to the tutorial section. That's right here. Now, if you're on a mobile device, and I know that 93% of our users are on a mobile device, it's going to be in that little hamburger, those 3 lines off to the left-hand side. So you click on that, and you're going to see the navigation bars. Okay, real quick, couple of questions popping in. Anthony, thank you for being here. What is the ultimate rationale for sending disputes via certified mail? Great question. Let me preface it by this. Credit bureaus handle stamped mail and certified mail the exact same way. Okay, they have had the same addresses in some cases for decades. So the reason to send certified mail because you're worried about your disputes getting lost is not very realistic. Typically, what certified means, and this largely comes from the credit repair blogosphere, meaning an idea that just continues to circulate over and over and over with credit repair people and not really experts in the field. It's one of the reasons why I bring in John Alzheimer, who was formerly with Equifax and FICO, and why I bring in sometimes Steve Rieger, who used to run the dispute division over at TransUnion, because I want to get input from people who actually come from the industry. Now, if we were to ask them, if you were to ask me, why do you send a letter certified mail? It's really to prepare for a lawsuit. Like, one of the things that happens on occasion is that you're in the dispute process, something is not getting fixed, you know it's wrong, you've disputed it. If you retain an attorney, now here's the good thing about attorneys that specialize in consumer protection law, FCRA, FDCPA, is that they don't charge anything. Okay, all of their fees are paid by the credit bureaus or the data furnisher, aka that's your creditor, whoever's reporting the information. So the great thing is there's no reason to be discouraged or intimidated or thinking you can't afford an attorney if you have some real problems. Now, swinging back around to answer your question, Anthony, the reason why certified mail is there is to have solid proof if you go into a lawsuit or some kind of a settlement that your attorney is going to want before he does that. That's really the big reason for certified mail. Some people, they just want to know that their letter was received by the bureau. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But if you look at what big credit repair companies do, I'm talking about the ones that send out tens of thousands of pieces of mail every single day. Nobody does that. Nobody does that certified except for the credit repair companies I know that also do lawsuit work, and there's only a handful of those. Okay. Let's see. Charles, R used to service, all it did was go down. No, I'm not sure what you're, try retyping that one. I'm not sure what you're saying. Marie, sent my first letters Monday. Good job. Way to stay on top of that. And remember, this is a multi-dispute process. Keep that process going. So it doesn't matter if you hire a credit repair company, you're doing this completely on your own, you're using Credit Versio. This is a multi-letter process. It'd be great if you could send out one dispute letter that handled everything. It got to the right people. The dispute was resolved in the way that it's supposed to be resolved on the first letter. It doesn't do that, unfortunately. Not all the time. Sometimes you'll get low-hanging fruit that just drops off, and that's great. But a lot of the times, you're going to have to follow up with that second round. In fact, we have a saying in the credit repair space before Credit Versio, the years I've been in this business, is that the dispute process really begins at the second round. Because the first round, they just might blow you off. The second round is when you come back and say, no, I don't agree with the outcome. Tell me how you came to the decision that this information is reporting accurately. So great job, Marie, on getting your first dispute letter out. Keep it going. Okay, also another question, how can I get old addresses off a credit report? If you go into the templates, in fact, I'll show you right here. Let's switch over. This is a staging area. I think I've got everything up in here. Templates, let me show you here, fingers crossed. So what I'm gonna show you, there we go, right there. No, I'm sorry. Okay, so inside of the template area on the staging, I'm just doing staging right now because obviously I don't want to show somebody's account with all their credit information. But just like I showed you in the template section, you're going to see a letter that is called a personal info update letter. And that's going to ask the bureaus to remove any addresses that are not current, any names that are not accurate. and make sure you follow the instructions on that cover page. What they're going to do is require that you put your driver's license and a proof of address, a recent proof of address, just so they can verify that it's you. Let's see. Rhonda, on average, how many points can Credit Versio raise a score? Credit Versio doesn't raise scores. Credit Versio is a dispute platform that allows you to dispute. So your score is 100% up to you. Your score is your grade of how well you are managing your credit. I've seen people get accounts deleted from their credit report. Their score goes up, 20 points, goes up 100 points. There's no predictor. There is no average because everybody's account is incredibly different. So I wish I'd love to give you an answer for that, but nobody can give you an answer because, frankly, there isn't one. Okay, Darcy, let's see. What is the best credit mix, number of credit cards, etc., to get the maximum FICO points? So really, that's a great question. In fact, I remember asking that myself about 8 or 9 years ago. And really what it's looking for is just that you have really just one of each. You're going to max out your points. So mix of credit is about 15% of your FICO score. The max credit or the maximum points have a lot to do with age, payment history, a handful of other things. But if you're looking for that mix of credit, that 15% of your score, what FICO is looking for in Vantage 2 is that you have an installment loan and a revolving account. Some will argue that having a mortgage in there also helps, but a mortgage is also an installment loan. So really the bulk of your score is going to be how are you making your payments and how long have you been making your payments and balances. That's the bulk of your score. Okay. Anthony, that was my thinking. Thank you for confirmation. You are very welcome. Let's see. Natalie, sent my first letters on Monday. Have you had personal experience with charge-off Merrick Bank accounts? Seems they're very difficult to get removed. So Natalie, I'll give you this definition. Anything can be removed from a credit report if and only if the account is either reporting inaccurately and the creditor, the data furnisher, cannot fix it, or the information cannot be verified. So, and that's it. So everybody, and this is the fault of the credit repair industry largely. And that is there are too many talking heads in the space that really don't understand how this process works. There are no secret letters or special, techniques necessarily that are going to get something deleted from a credit report when it's reporting accurately. In fact, I can say that there is no provision in the law anywhere. This is both the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, that allows for accurate and verifiable information to be removed. It's not there. So really what happens most of the time, in fact, I'll give you like the inside of really how this works. The best dispute reason is the one that explains why the account is not reporting accurately. Okay. And a lot of times that's when you're looking at your credit report and you see something wrong with it. And you're like, hey, this isn't my late payment, or I was never late here, or this isn't my account, or I had some kind of, I had an accommodation with my data furnisher during COVID, and I want to correct that by using a dispute, via dispute, and you can do a custom reason for that. In fact, I'll show you that here in a second in Credit Versio. Now, not everybody has a dispute reason. They're looking at their account and they're like, okay, I want to dispute this. I don't necessarily know why. Under those conditions, there's two options. Credit Versio has the ability to scan your credit report and find errors. And if it finds something, it's going to give you a suggested reason. I'll demo that here in a second. If it doesn't find an error, it's going to give you a suggested reason, but based off of some statistical data, the highest probability of the creditor, or AKA data furnisher, not being able to verify the information. So I'll be kind of flat out right up front with you. Most of the time, accounts get deleted from credit reports when they get deleted because the data furnisher just doesn't have the ability to verify the data. And that's how most deletions take place. Probably the bulk of deletions take place because they just don't have the ability to uh, to verify the information. Okay, so let's go to, okay, Marie, thank you so much for asking the question. You are very welcome. Tanisha, hello. I sent out my first round last month, and I think I would have to send a second round. Will the next letter help me indicate what I should say next? Yes, okay. I'm glad you asked that question, Tanisha, because this is one of the really important parts of having an account with Credit Versio. This is a question that's actually answered right here in the tutorial section. Oh, let me share my screen. In the tutorial section, you're going to see 4 videos. How to get started, an overview of your dashboard, creating your dispute letters, and for you, Tanisha, results and follow-up disputes. So Credit Versio is a dispute platform. And if you caught what I said a few minutes ago, it'd be great if disputes can be handled off of just one letter, one and done. Everything is fixed as it should be. Everything is deleted if it wasn't verifiable. It just doesn't work that way. It's usually a 2, 3, sometimes a 4 round process. Sometimes it could be 5 if Credit Versio brings in a new credit report and sees that there is information on there that is wrong, and it gives you a very specific suggested reason. It could take 5 rounds, but by about the 4th, 5th round, everything that you've disputed, if it's still there, then it's going to remain. Okay? But it will walk you through the process. So Tanisha, be sure to go into your tutorial section, watch all 4 of those videos. I promise you what you need to do next is going to be very clear. Let's see. Geraldo, hello. I was wondering if what credit repair companies doing a sweep can be done with Credit Versio. Let me read this again. I was wondering if credit repair companies doing sweeps can be done. Recently disputed my stuff with you guys and was super happy with the ease of use. Joe, I'm not sure what you mean by doing sweeps. If you could just maybe define that a little bit better. When I hear sweeps, here's what comes to mind. Every few years, some kind of credit repair gimmick jumps out there. About 5, 6 years ago, there was this thing called the credit sweep, and what was happening is you had companies creating fake IDs, or actually, here's how they were doing it. They were creating false police reports. There was a police department somewhere in the Northwest where you could file police reports online. Kid you not. So what the credit repair company was doing is they were filing false police reports, and they were sending police reports to the credit bureaus, fraud reports, along with an affidavit. And people were getting all of these things deleted from their credit reports. Now, that resulted in a lot of those guys going to jail, and some of their customers as well, because it's illegal to file a false police report. So when I hear sweep, that's what I think. So just clarify your question a little bit better. And I'm glad you found it very easy to use. We designed it that way. Scott Oliver, hey, good to see you. Hey, did you change your little favicon there? What do you got? Oh, dogs. Okay, there you go. Natalie, thanks for your response. I'm excited to have signed up with Credit Versio. We're excited to have you. Okay, Scott, always with a good question. Let's see what you got here. I've tried to get an old account off my credit report. I have sent the letters, but I still get replies from the creditor. They say they can tell it's coming from a credit repair company and refuse to take it off. Granted, it's not from Credit Versio, but from Smart Credit. I think I don't understand the relationship between the two. Wonderful. Okay, I'm glad you asked that question. I'm sorry to hear that this is what's going on. Keep in mind, if you're doing disputes through Smart Credit, that's a monitoring service. It's an online dispute. It's no different if you were to do an online dispute directly with Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion. So I don't recommend doing that. Especially, you're going to throw up a red flag if you've got paper disputes that you're using from Credit Versio or yourself, or credit repair company, and you're doing online disputes too. Because the way that the bureaus look at that is really nobody who is on the up and up, this is their interpretation most likely, is going to be doing all of that. Is going to be doing paper and online. So what they're going to think is, well, you're doing the online dispute directly, and you've got a credit repair company doing a paper dispute. Or if if you're sending them a paper dispute, they might misinterpret that as coming from a credit repair company. So that's why you got to be real careful with this stuff. I wouldn't do online disputes. I wouldn't do actions in Smart Credit. The relationship between Credit Versio and Smart Credit is really easy. I'll give you a great analogy that people like. Credit Versio is the car. It's the thing that you're driving in. It's got the engine. It's got the wheels. It's what's getting you around town. Smart Credit is just the gasoline. Okay, so Smart Credit provides a 3-bureau credit report to Credit Versio so that Credit Versio can function. It can read your credit report, find the mistakes, create disputes, track everything. Okay, that's the difference between the two. So look at Smart Credit as just a 3-bureau credit report provider. That's all that it does. And go dogs. Okay. All right, great question so far. So let's get back to the screen share here. So again, make sure that you go through your tutorials and watch your videos. It'll tell you exactly what to do and how to do it. Okay, so first things first. I'm going to give you just a brief overview. By the way, I don't know how many people are using Credit Versio and how many people are not. If you want me to go through just the basic stuff, give me a yes, give me a no. I don't want to go through all this if everybody's like, yeah, I'm already round 2 or round 3 in the dispute process, and this isn't going to be a value to you. So what I'll do is I'll just start the process. Let's just do a temperature check and see how many people want me to go through this. All right, so the first thing I want to show you is, okay, homepage. One thing that we get questions on a lot is, hey, how do I find out what got deleted? How do I find out what got repaired? So you want to go into Anthony. Okay, yeah, you're in round 2. Okay, great. So Anthony, this might be valuable to you. So if you're going into round 2, if you want to see the results, there's a couple of places that you're going to look. So go into credit items, and the filters on mobile will just be on top right here. And then look at your negative accounts. And then you can click deleted, repaired. Now there's not going to be anything in here because this is a round 1 staging area. So we haven't even created our first disputes yet. But you can look right in here and you can see all of your accounts by bureau: TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. So right here. Also, what's new, this was implemented about a month ago, is now inside of all the accounts. If you hit the plus button, the suggested reason is already there. It used to not be there. It used to be on the next page when you went to select your dispute reason. So for example, I'll walk you through that in a second. So if I walk you through this, suggested reason, late payment error, it'll tell you what error it found, if it found one, but it'll certainly tell you the suggested reason, what it thinks is the smartest reason. Okay, so if I go back home and I click Create Dispute Letter, I'm not going to do all of these, but let's take a look at what it's showing me. So on this Macy's account, late payment error. Okay, so it says this account is incorrectly reporting that I have 4 late payments. And it says on my Experian report, there are only 2 late payments being reported. So that's how very keen Credit Versio is. When it's scanning the credit report, it can tell the difference between what's being reported on one credit report from the next. So just for fun, it says on Experian, okay, so here we see 30-day late. I don't know if you can see that. Is that large enough to where you can see it? Let's go over to Experian. Let me go back here. Credit items. We'll go negative, and we'll go to Experian. Same account. Yep, there we are. There's 2. So TransUnion said 4, Experian said 2, and it found the error for us. It's really cool. It'll do most of the work for you. All right, so let's see. Jeff's got a question. We'll take a quick pause here. I've noticed several collection accounts for the same debt for different agencies. Also accounts that are more than 7 years old being re-aged. Is there a letter for both of these situations? Great question, Jeff. So first of all, it's very, very rare for a third-party debt collector, for multiple third-party debt collectors to be on your credit report showing the original creditor as the source of the debt. If that's the case, you bet Credit Versio is going to find that. In fact, I think we got a situation right here. Let me switch over. Now, this isn't a collection account example, but look at this. Duplicate creditor error. So this account is being reported on my credit report multiple times with the same account information, and open date. Okay, so if that was a collection, Jeff, yes, Credit Versio will be able to see that. In fact, once you have even when you have a couple of credit reports, like let's say you're on for 3 months and you got a collection deleted in month one and it gets bought by a different collection company and then shows up again on month three, Credit Versio, when it scans your latest credit report, looks back at all of your credit reports to see if anything like that takes place. So yes, it will find duplicates. It looks at, there's data inside each account that lets it know that it's a duplicate account. So that's going to answer your question. Also, accounts that are more than 7 years old being re-aged. This is, let me put this back up here again. So Jeff, this is a really common thing that people believe is happening. So ever since the credit bureaus and data furnishers switched over to Metro 2, this is a language that data furnishers and credit bureaus use. It took place in June, I believe it was June of 2018 is when that big switch came over. Inside every account, now we don't see this, not on consumer credit reports, which is what you and I are looking at. There is a field called DOFD, date of first delinquency. So it's that 30-day late payment that went to the 60, then the 90, then the 120, and maybe a 150, depends on what type of account it is. So that 7 years starts at that spot right there. Now that date is hard-coded into the item. So let's just say it's, I'll just make something up. Let's say it's an American Express card and it went into a charge-off status and then it gets sold to Midland Funding as an example. Well, even though Midland Funding will take on that debt, the open date will make it look like it's brand new. Let's just say they got it yesterday. So that open date is going to be January 11th, 2021. But inside of the coding there is the DOFD that you and I aren't going to see that says when that account is going to drop off. Now let's say it's going to drop off in 3 years or 4 years. Well, we won't know that. So when we look at that open date on that American Express collection from Midland Funding and it says it was yesterday, we're going to think, oh my gosh, this thing is going to stay on for another 7 years. That's actually not the case. So things being re-aged is not really a thing. The only time a re-aging event takes place is let's just say that next month or the month after, Midland Funding decides to update that open date and to make it that month. Well, that would be re-aging that collection. It's not re-aging when that American Express account's going to fall off because that 7 years is sort of set in stone. It's in the code. So hopefully that makes sense. Now that open date, however, is going to look like a brand new collection. So as far as the damage that it does to the FICO score and the Vantage score, if it does damage at all, again, when does a collection not do damage to your score? When you've got 10 others. But if it's a brand new collection, if it's the only one that you got, yeah, that open date indicates that it's a new collection account. But it hasn't been re-aged. Hope that makes sense. If not, feel free to clarify your question. All right, Brendan. Let's see. I sent off my first round of disputes. I did not dispute any accounts that have a balance, and I'm actively working with a debt settlement company to settle. Was that the correct thing to do? So, Brendan, this is actually a very common question. You can dispute anything that you want. Now, I don't recommend disputing things that are in a settlement, so that's perfectly fine what you did. Feel free to dispute any account that isn't reporting accurate information. Now, if you see something like, oh, wow, this balance is wrong, these dates are wrong, I wasn't late on these dates, feel free to dispute it as a strategy for removal or a strategy for repair. But yeah, if you're going through debt consolidation, the only dispute that you'd ever want to consider, and this happens frequently with Chapter 13 bankruptcies, is when people are paying, I'm not saying that's what you've got. If you're in debt settlement, it's a different thing. But along the same lines, if you're paying your balances down and the creditor on the credit report is not reflecting that balance going down, that would be something to dispute. Probably not going to remove it, but at least it'll reflect the accurate balance. All right. Anthony, question, is the best practice to include a snippet from my credit reports of the disputed items? Note I'm using Identity IQ in conjunction with Credit Versio to draft dispute letters. I've done that one time before, and I did that many, many years ago. This is back when tax liens were on credit reports. As a general rule for everybody watching, no, you don't need to do that, because what happens inside of the Credit Versio system is it's including the account number and the name of the creditor. So you don't need to include a snapshot. It's really unnecessary. Enough data is being provided in the dispute letter for the bureau and the data furnisher to understand what you're disputing. So that's perfectly fine. The only time I ever did that was way back when I had a tax lien that I had paid off, and I got a notice from the IRS with instructions for the bureaus to remove it. It's one of the very few things that when you pay off, you can give instructions to the bureau and they will remove it. So my first dispute letter, they didn't remove it. It was just an automatic response. Remember what I said in the beginning of this video, that a lot of times the dispute process really begins at round 2 because they might blow you off on that first round. And that's what they did. So on that second round, I included, again, the letter and a picture, a snapshot of that account, the tax lien, in the public records section of my credit report. Now, did I need to do that? Probably not, but that's just kind of this is years ago, and I thought that would help. So, but no, to answer your question, there's enough information inside of the Credit Versio letter to give the bureaus everything they need to know. Excellent. Okay, so let's go back to the home screen here for Credit Versio. All right, great. Now, I'm going to create a dispute. And you'll see why I'm doing this in a second. Now, I'm not gonna do this with all the accounts. I just want to do a couple. I just want to show you some flexibility. Let me come down here and I'll do a collection too. That's enough. Then I click next. So it says 3 items selected. Click next. And now I'm going to add my dispute reason. Okay. Now you'll hear me, even in the tutorial videos I talk about this, in the coaching videos I talk about this, you'll hear me say this on the lives. The best dispute reason, there's 2 of them. Number 1 is a custom reason that explains why the account is not reporting accurately. And now that's if you see it. That's if you catch a mistake. The second best reason, or the second of the 2 best reasons, they're both kind of the same thing really, is if Credit Versio catches an error. It can find 20 of them, which, by the way, is a lot better than a dispute processing team. I mean, it's very difficult sometimes to catch these errors and mistakes when you're looking at a credit report that might be 25 to 70 pages long. All right, let me show you what it's doing here. So I selected 3 random accounts. I'll click Add Dispute Reason, and it's going to let you know what the account is. It's Macy's. Here's what's wrong with it in red font. Okay, 4 30-day lates, and then late payment error 1. So this account is reporting that I have 4 late payments on my, and then it says on my Experian report there are 2 late payments being reported. Okay, so I'll save that one. Let me go to the next one. Here, this is where you choose your reason. So I can do a custom reason right here, and I can write my own. Let's say I know exactly what's wrong with the account. So Anthony, maybe you've got something that you want to send a snippet. You want to send a picture of the account. Maybe you're not getting any headway with it for whatever reason, and you want to write a custom reason and include a picture. A little unnecessary, but you certainly can if you want. And this is where you would type out your custom reason. You would type it out right here. Okay, I'm going to go, just make it easy, I'm going to go with the suggested reason. And same thing with this. I'll save, and then I'll hit finish. And then what happened is it's going to email the dispute over to my email address. So here it says, great job, your transient round 1 dispute has been emailed to, and this is my staging email. It's not a real email. From here I go create Experian dispute, create Equifax dispute, but we'll go back to my dashboard. One of the things that a handful of people are not doing, which is something that you definitely want to do, is you want to mark your letter as sent. Real easy. Just let Credit Versio know that you marked your letter as sent. Button right here. Put the date on there. You'll see that the date is a while ago because that's when the staging area was set up. Great. Now that's done. Okay. Really, really simple. If you want to see your dispute letter, you go into the dispute letter right here. Hit the plus button, and then here's your letter. And Anthony, this is really more for you. Let's look right here. Macy's DSNB credit card account. Here's the account number and the open date. Those are the two, and the balance. So those are the two primary things, three primary things that the bureaus need to find your information. Okay. Question, recommendation on disputing inquiry. Should they be done separately? No. In tutorial video number one of the things that I talk about, put all of your disputes on one letter. I don't know where this, in fact, I interviewed Steve Rieger on here. Oh gosh, maybe about a year and a half ago. Steve Rieger he was at TransUnion for 25 years. For the last handful of years, he used to run the entire dispute division in California. And one of the things he clearly said is, guys, please stop sending us multiple letters at the same time. Put all your disputes on one letter. Okay, the machines can read it. That's what they prefer. Simple language. Don't confuse anybody. It's a very straightforward process. And by the way, Anthony, think about, what would somebody who wasn't using software, didn't hire a credit repair company, didn't really know anything about the process, didn't know of any like credit repair tricks, what would they do? What would be the most natural thing to do? It'd be natural to put everything on one dispute, wouldn't it? So that's what they want. Put everything on one dispute letter. Okay, let me bring this back up. Maybe my own myth, but I don't want the big three to think I'm doing blind disputes. They don't think like that. Okay, bureaus don't really care. In fact, coincidentally, I happened to be talking to Steve Rieger today he's with Smart Credit now. He's run Smart Credit, but TransUnion for 25 years. Most of his team is there at Smart Credit it comes from TransUnion. They've been there for a long time. One of the things that Steve makes an effort to point out is that bureaus are not against you. Okay, they're not the enemy. They are really on your side. They care about having accurate information. And when they receive a dispute, they don't really want tricks. They don't want games. Just tell them what you're looking for. Okay, simple language. Why do Credit Versio disputes look like this? Look how simple this is. We're not quoting laws. We're not droning on about what they need to do. We're not threatening. Why do Credit Versio letters look so simple? Sometimes I get in little matches back and forth. Not anything unreasonable, but people say, "Hey, your letters are too simple." Well, they're too simple because we've been told by people who work inside of the credit bureaus how they want letters, what they prefer. Okay, we already make the assumption based on our knowledge that there aren't any tricks. Okay, there's not really anything that can be written that the people at the bureaus are gonna go, "Oh my gosh, wow, I've never seen a dispute letter so amazing. Let's just hit the delete button on everything." It doesn't work that way. Everything is processed in the same way, and there's only a handful of things that they're going to consider. Like, it's not yours. The account is the late payment doesn't belong to you. The balance is wrong. I mean, there's like a handful of things that they're trying to figure out. So they don't need this whole story. They don't need any special tricks. So Anthony, I can appreciate what you being able to identify this distinction. Like maybe it's a myth or your own belief, and a lot of that comes from people in the credit repair space who don't learn any of this stuff from anybody other than credit repair people, so they just continue to perpetuate it. Also, too, who was it that asked me about deleting their addresses? I have to scroll up a little bit. It was way up here. I forgot who it was. Okay, well, somebody asked about disputing their addresses, their names and addresses. And this is another one of those myths that, in fact, John Olsheimer and I covered this, I believe, last week, where we talked about, hey, yeah, you definitely want to have correct information on your credit report, but don't think that deleting your name variations and address is going to help disassociate you from accounts that are yours. It doesn't really work like that. But a lot of credit repair people believe it worked. In fact, I believe that worked a long time ago until I got set straight by people who actually come from inside the credit bureaus, which is where you want to get your information. Okay. All right, where are we now? 43 minutes in. So that's about usually where we start to wrap up. Can I answer any other questions before? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just quickly roll into round 2 right here because I want to show you something in round 2. Okay. All right. On round two, I want to give you a little tip. And again, this falls under the category of this is a multi-letter process. Round two, when I go to create my dispute letter, I want you to notice this. When I open up suggested reasons, notice what it says. I previously disputed this. If Credit Versio doesn't see any material change to the account, meaning it was disputed, but nothing, oh, really? Okay, sorry about that. Let's bring my mic over here. Is that any better? Maybe I'll speak up a little bit. All right, so I turned the input up a little bit. Let me know if that's better. Hold on, let me do one more thing. I wish I would have known this in the beginning, but I know, GL, you're probably just getting here. Oh, all right, yeah. Hopefully that's better, yes? Okay, great, thank you. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. All right. Okay, in the round two, notice it says, I previously disputed this account. So it's going to state, I previously disputed the account, and it's going to restate the dispute. And notice that it's doing that on most of these. I think here's one that it didn't do it because the account was corrected, yet there was another problem, which was the fact that it was a charge-off. So there was some late payment conflict on this one from the previous. I'm sorry, it was a duplicate credit error, if you can see it right there. So the duplicate was deleted. So they deleted the other account. So now Credit Versio goes, okay, what's the next thing we want to dispute? Well, you don't want to disagree with the outcome because you got the outcome you wanted. Now, Credit Versio realizes it's got to dispute the charge-off. Okay, so in the next one, same thing. I previously disputed this. So the tip is, if nothing changed on the dispute from round one to round two, go with the suggested reason. Suggested reason is a solid dispute reason for round two. Because remember, a lot of times you're going to get that blow off. So why do you get the blow off? Why is the saying in the credit repair space that the dispute process sort of begins at round two? Because I think data furnishers understand that if you're doing a dispute, if they respond back saying, no, everything's fine, everything's compliant, everything is all good, that a lot of the time people just disappear. In fact, I read once that the stat was about 83% of people who do first round disputes, who are doing their own credit repair, they get discouraged and they quit because they don't know what to do next. So that's why you're going to follow up with that round two and round three and possibly round four. And to answer the question that you might be asking, do we see deletions happening in round three and four? Yeah, you'd be surprised. Sometimes enough of the dispute. It's not because you're pestering them. It's because you're asking for them to do what they're supposed to do legally. Okay. Last video was with John was really hard to hear you. Yeah, I think sometimes John, for as awesome as John is, he's not the most technically capable person. I keep trying to get him to plug his computer into the internet, and he doesn't. He does Wi-Fi. I got to work with however he wants to do things, but I think that might create some problems with me being able to select the volume control. But I promise I will try to do better next time. Okay, we are coming to almost 50 minutes. That's going to be about it. I'm going to hang on for just a minute. If anybody has any last-minute questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. But I'm going to close this out. Going once, going twice. Okay, now if you missed asking your question in this live, feel free to post on Facebook. Now, the Facebook posts I can see. During the live, the YouTube posts I don't see. For whatever reason, they just tend to disappear. So you can email support@creditversio.com. It'll come to our support team. It can come to me. Or you can post on Facebook, and I see those posts, and I'll answer those for you. John's volume was fine. It was yours. Okay. All right, GL. Hey, listen, I think I figured out what the problem was. It was a setting in my Mac. So I'll make sure to put it on my list of things to check. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. Drop your comments below if you have any other questions, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much.